Hip hip tally-ho, Joolz Guide here, in which I wander around London and tell you fascinating facts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like these videos. And today we're starting here in Chiswick and we're going to walk all the way up to Hammersmith along the river for a jolly old riverside walk. And actually we're starting outside Chiswick House. It was built in 1729 by Richard Boyle, the 3rd Earl of Burlington. The Earls of Burlington owned Burlington House, which is actually where the Royal Academy is, up in Piccadilly these days. And he actually built this as a temple to the arts. It wasn't really a house, it was just a place for him to demonstrate all his beautiful pieces of art. But it's built in the beautiful Palladian style, Simon. The Palladian style, did you notice that? Yes. Later on it fell into the hands of the Cavendish family, and I know one of the ladies Cavendish, she entertained the Tsar of Russia, Tsar Nicholas, here, and they had giraffes and stuff roaming around the gardens. Later on, around the beginning of the 20th century, it became a lunatic asylum as well, amazingly, but only for very rich lunatics. If you're a very rich lunatic, you're allowed to stay here. It's a bit harsh. But these days, it's open to the public. You can go and have a look inside, and we're not going to go in. So they don't like photography. But Chiswick actually comes from Old English Cheswickan or something, which means cheese farm, because there used to be an annual cheese fair here up until the 19th century, I think. Anyway, let's take a turn around the gardens.
London pride has been handed down to us. London pride is a flower that's free. London pride means our own dear town to us.
It's such a beautiful, serene surroundings. They've got an Ionic temple or something over there, it's called. And look, all these Greek philosophers. My Greek's a bit rusty. What do you reckon? Looks like an R. Looks like it could be Socrates. It looks like Socrates. I know that's what he looks like.
It looks just like him.
No, wait a minute. I do have a degree in philosophy, so I do know what Socrates looks like. These gardens were designed by William Kent. They're the earliest example of the English landscape movement. And actually, it was around here that the Beatles recorded Paperback Writer. I think it was,
yes.
yeah, they did some recordings for Paperback Writer here.
Oh, you mean the film, video?
Yeah, they did some promotional
They were like
things.
a veranda or something.
Whoa, Liza, see the Costa barrows, vegetable marrows and the fruit.
It's hard to believe that Chiswick is actually quite posh when you're standing in front of this horrendous flyover, but it was regarded as a place for the gentry and persons of quality to live. And so we will see a lot of those beautiful houses when we walk along the river, and a lot of amazing pubs, because there's so many nice riverside pubs here. This is kind of like a pub crawl. So best drinking trousers on, Simon.
Certainly.
Before we go along the river though, we just have to head over around the corner to something rather interesting.
Oh, Liza, little London sparrows, Covent Garden Market.
Welcome to the delightful Hogarth's roundabout. You know, in the 18th century, this was beautiful country lanes. I mean, 1749, William Hogarth, the famous satiricist and artist, bought a second home down here, and he used to spend his summers down there. He actually lived in Leicester Square. But anyway, you can go and visit his house now. It's down here.
Cockney feet mark the beat of history. Every street pins a...
This is Rake's Progress, and he also did a Harlot's Progress, which you've got over there. These are actually, I've used a lot of these in my videos. These are a lot of them around Covent Garden. So many people were copying them that he ended up lobbying Parliament. He was the first one who started the Copyright Act in 1735. There's an interesting thing here on the door. So this probably was the bedroom. And this door, you could open it using a cord. So you'd lie in bed and the door would be completely closed from the outside, and there was a cord that went all the way around the door and over to the bed, and they sort of lift some sort of latch. If someone called on you, you didn't even have to get out of bed to let them in. You see that mulberry tree outside? That is the same mulberry tree which Hogarth's wife used to use the fruits from to make tarts. It's still there.
Nothing ever could quite replace the grace of London.
You'll notice there's a lot of Fullers pubs around here, and the first pub on your walk could be this one here, the George and Devonshire. Apparently they've got a tunnel which the smugglers used to use. It leads all the way under here to the river, which is just beside, which is where we're going. But actually, first of all, let's go to the Fullers Brewery, which is just over here. Just in time, the rain came down. Excellent, Anthony.
Hello,
Hello,
nice to
sir.
meet you.
How often do you do these tours then?
So we run one on the hour, every hour, I say sort of Tuesday to Sunday. There's been brewing on this site for approximately 400 years.
Outside it said Griffin Brewery. What does that mean? What's it?
Yes,
and then there's another one, Lamb Brewery. Are they all a part of this one?
Yeah, it was called the Griffin Brewery by the Thompson brothers, one of Fuller's many owners over the years. Fuller's didn't come in until 1839. In mythology, the Griffin is known as the guardian of treasure. And if you look under its right talon, it's actually holding a barrel of beer, which is our treasure. This is one of the wells that we used to actually get our water from. They last got used back in the 1930s. No problem at all.
Oh, this is what we're talking about. This is what we want.
Yeah.
You can really smell the beer. It's very yeasty. Can you smell that, Simon?
So, this is our original mash tun. The main grain bill would be ground up and come down from these massive silo vats down here. And if you imagine like gentlemen with massive long paddles mashing all of the grain up with all of the water mixed together.
This one's no longer in operation.
No, this was last used back in 1993. So the nice thing is that there are still people still walking around today that have had beer out of this particular vat. Literally, a guy would have to jump into this vat and actually throw it out of the nearby window. Wow. So, believe it or not, because this was like a sauna in here, back in the day, jockeys for the Grand National, they'd actually come and do a day shift in here and actually shovel out the grain out of the window to try and sweat off as much weight as they could, so give them a bit of advantage in the race.
This always reminds me of the Poseidon adventure. You know, at the end when Gene Hackman, he jumps and he lands on that thing. And then he falls to his death into the fiery depths below.
So this is our new water tank. So this tank in total holds approximately 250,000 litres. We only pump the water at night because if we pumped it during the daytime, there wouldn't be enough water pressure in the surrounding area to actually for anyone to have a shower. So we do a variety of different beers.
Which are the ones that I'll have heard of? Because I drink London Pride, I quite like London.
Yeah, I say we've been brewing London Pride since the end of the Second World War, so it's over 60 years old. So there's a plant variety called London Pride, just like the poppies in France. They were the plants that grew just after the Blitz and gave people hope during those tough times. So we actually named the beer after plants that grew after the Blitz. We've got a London Porter here, also a Golden Pride that we do here, honeydew that we make, and also our fantastic seasonals that we do throughout the year as well.
All of which I'm sure we're going to try out in a bit, aren't we?
Definitely, definitely. This is where we do our main brewing operations today. It can hold up to about 92,000 pints.
Hops and barley will be the death of me. It comes from the woods and it does you no good. There used to be a band called Wat Tyler I used to go and see.
The building is actually that shape because the copper boiler is actually behind it. So when they actually installed it, they actually put the brickwork around it.
Those are the ones you were talking about.
Those are London Pride flowers, yes. They're not currently in bloom at the moment.
London Pride has been handed down to us. London Pride is a flower that's free.
To celebrate our reigning monarch 70 years on the throne, we have this wonderful Platinum Jubilee beer. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Gentlemen, the Queen.
There's a little city flower every spring unfailing, growing in the crevices by some London
This is an
rain.
authentic 15th century building. I think this is the oldest building in Chiswick, actually. Used to be a pub. It's called the Old Burlington now. And that is just opposite St Nicholas of Chiswick. Santa Claus, isn't he? So he's a patron saint of
Christmas.
children and sailors. That's why it's near the river. And, pleasingly, patron saint of prostitutes as well. Yeah. Looking for a particular grave. Frederick Hitch. This memorial is erected for volunteers to commemorate his heroic action at Rorke's Drift in January 1879. So the Battle of Rorke's Drift was the one depicted in the film Zulu with Michael Caine. When he came back to England, he got a job as a taxi driver with his own horses. So he is now the only cab driver to have a Victoria Cross. A lot of taxi drivers watch the show, and so I thought they might like that. When he was buried, a lot of people came, a lot of taxi drivers attended the funeral. Okay. There's a rumour that Oliver Cromwell is buried in here. Well, Oliver Cromwell, he was posthumously hanged, wasn't he, by King Charles II. He hanged him, he disinterred his body because he was so annoyed about the revolution. And he hanged him, and there's a lot of debate as to where his body is, but because they say that Oliver Cromwell's daughters were supposed to have been buried here, they think that maybe Oliver Cromwell's body is here. I don't think his head is, because his head got put on a spike, didn't it, on top of Parliament. Anyway, they're all dead now. They're dead. Okay, can I go now? Do you remember that film? Aliens. Newt, where are your parents?
Not as good as Alien.
No. And over here, that one's William Hogarth's grave. We've just been to his house.
London pride has been handed down to us. London pride is a flower that's free.
Beautiful, look at this. Now along here is where John Thornycroft, as in like he was a boat builder. Thornycroft and Co was his, but turned into a really big shipbuilding company. And he built, when he was only about 17, around in the 1860s, something called the Nautilus. It was like a torpedo boat, I think they called them, or high-speed boats, because torpedo boats were seen as weapons of the future back then. And it was amazing, because this was the first one that could keep pace with the Oxford and Cambridge rowing crews that came up and down here. Careful here, look.
Yeah.
Fellow could ruin his trousers down here.
Watch yourself.
These amazing buildings along here. They're all, I mean, they're mostly listed, I should think.
Yeah.
18th century properties. Do you like to live around here? It's quite nice, don't you think?
Not really, no.
Bedford House. I mean, this one actually is, this is the one where Vanessa Redgrave used to live.
Oh,
Vanessa
okay.
Redgrave, Michael Redgrave, Corinne Redgrave.
Yeah,
This is the whole family. So you have to cross the road to get to your garden, which is over here. That is so nice, though.
I couldn't put up with that.
No, it's true, actually. I don't think I'd. If someone offered it to me, I'd be like, no.
So no, sorry.
What? No, I have to cross the road to go to my.
Walk across the road.
This thing here, I think this is called Chiswick Eyot. E-Y-O-T. It means like an island in the stream. Islands in the stream. That is what we are. You. How does it go? When the tide is really out, I think you can actually walk to it. So yeah, it's right next to this thing here. They often talk about it in the boat race, in the Oxford and Cambridge boat race, which I know you're a big fan of, Simon. I mean, you obviously watch that all the time. I think that thing marks halfway, that green post. If I'm wrong, don't write in.
Hey lady, when the day is dawning, see the policeman yawning on his lonely...
Walpole House. This is where the Duchess of Cleveland used to live. Barbara Villiers. She was yet another one of King Charles II's mistresses. She had 5 of his kids, late 17th century, yeah. I was talking to the lady who lives a couple of doors down, and she says she thinks it's for sale. For
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
really?
Right,
Well,
yeah,
let me just make a note of that.
Yeah. 18 million, I think. I find it hard to believe. I think it would be a bit more than that. Trouble is, I've gone and lost my wallet. I'll get into the sunshine here. You know what, there's a lot of points to be had along here, because look, what do you see up there, Simon?
Oh, yes, I see the insurance.
Fire insurance
Fire
plaques.
insurance, there we go.
The bottom one is the Sun Fire Office, which was the first one, which has now become Sun Alliance. Trouble is, I never know if someone's watching the video for the first time, then they won't know what I'm on about when I point out fire. So maybe I have to mention it again. It's just that these fire insurance plaques were what you had on your building, so that the fire brigade would come and put the fire out if your house was on fire. And if you weren't insured, I mean, they were run by the fire insurance companies. So if you weren't insured, you're going to burn.
Hear the footsteps echo in the empty street. Early rain and the pavements glistening.
So more points to be had. What do you make of that one, huh? What do you think of that? I know I've just mentioned stink pipes in my last video, but that has got to be a stink pipe, hasn't it? It's a big fat one, isn't it?
It's a glorious stink pipe.
I think the people of Chiswick must really poo loads, because look at the size, look at the girth of that. So it comes all the way down from the sewer to deliver the smells all up above the Victorian public's heads. I guess it doesn't do anything these days. A lot of people will probably walk past it and think it's a lamppost.
Nothing ever could break or harm the charm of London.
just here, the end of Western Terrace where it meets Hammersmith Terrace, yet more amazing houses. And it was along here that the Sir Thomas Moreland used to live. Now, he invented the megaphone. It was something like 20 feet long, made of copper. He could project somebody's voice over a mile and a half or something, he claimed. But anyway, as you wander along here, there are more famous people who have lived along here. A lot of printers, actually. It's had an association with printing. You see this one over here, that one's Edward Johnston. He invented the font for the London Underground back in the 1930s or 40s or something. They've used it on his plaque. The London Tube doesn't use that font anymore. But anyway, so he's another different, I just mentioned him by chance because he also invented fonts. Yeah. But this guy, Sir Emery Walker, he was in business with Thomas Cobden Sanderson. They developed typefaces and they had an argument. And Thomas Cobden Sanderson didn't want him to use his printing block, his Dove's font. And so he threw them into the river. He threw them, and it was only 100 years later, 2017, that they dug them out and they've discovered this new Dove's font.
I always like all the little windows for the stairway, you see.
Yes.
You know, because they're obviously not in line with the room windows. I like the door knocker as well for...
And the foot scrapers from the days when this was just a dusty old road, I suppose.
And the 1982 dustbin.
Back in 1804, there was this Hammersmith ghost murder case. And hello there, hello. There was people thought that there was this ghost wandering around here, and he was scaring people so much. One lady was even scared to death by this ghost.
Literally scared to death?
Yes, apparently. So a local patrol officer called Francis Smith decided, I know, I'm going to go out tonight with my gun loaded and I'm going to go and see if I can find this, whoever this ghost is. I'm going to kill him. I don't know what made him think he could kill a ghost. Anyway, unfortunately, there was a builder who worked in the neighbourhood. He was all covered in dust and he wore white overalls anyway, because that was his uniform for work. And he was walking around here and this fella just shot him dead. He came up to him, apprehended him in the street. He said, "Damn you, who are you and what are you? I will shoot you, damn you." And he just shot him dead. The poor bloke, he shot him in the jaw. And they dragged him to this pub here where he died. He got sentenced to death, but I think the king reduced his sentence to 1 year hard labour. And it set the precedent that you're liable for your actions even by mistaken belief. And the question of acting on a mistaken belief wasn't resolved in court until 1984.
So the interesting thing is, the chap that got shot wearing the white overalls, he is now a ghost wearing white overalls.
Yes, ironically, he's somehow
he
ended
has
up.
become the new Chiswick ghost.
Yes.
Ghost beside our starlit Thames, who lived and loved and died. Keep throughout the ages London pride.
We've come away from the river just because I wanted to come to Villa di Geggiano. It's an excellent restaurant. Anyway, let's go inside. I might have to cut some of the vintage Joolz as well. And you happen to be in Chiswick, look no further than Villa di Geggiano. And the owner happens to be from a very special Italian family, the Bianchi Bandinellis.
Everything in here, a lot of food and wine, is transported from his amazing estate in Tuscany, and he's a direct descendant of one of the popes.
We can trace the origin of the family in Siena since the year 900. So all my wines, organic wines, they are coming from the winery, and we had the Pope in 1160. And
Pope Alexander
III.
He was the guy who was Pope when Thomas Becket was murdered in the cathedral.
Yeah, exactly. And all the fresh pasta that we're doing daily, they've been done with real eggs and organic flour.
Nice to see you.
Our cocktail lounge, sir. So our guests before lunch or before dinner, they can have an aperitif in here, or maybe after lunch they can have a digestives, or simply they may just come and enjoy a glass of our estate wine, or maybe read an interesting book and have a cup of tea with us. Daniele and Daniela is in the gallery. Of course, the things might change. You have the mortgage.
I didn't realise it really is like on MasterChef. They all call each other chef. Oh, you probably know Vita mare quanto bello. I mean, I'm totally in the way here. I feel bad. We're not going to take much. You want my apron as well or what? What's the secret of a really good tomato sauce? Because I can never quite get it right. I try to make my tomato sauce at home. The love.
You should love your tomato.
It's like that scene in Goodfellas. I told my brother to keep an eye on the stove. All day long, the poor guy's been watching helicopters and tomato sauce.
This is our world's only banana pool table. It is for sale by one of our resident artists. A lot of corporates, a lot of celebrities. If you don't want to be seen downstairs with the diners, you take your dinner up here. That's from Sting and Trudie, Message in the Bottle.
A message in a bottle. Look at that.
Anyway, in 1725, we were already exporting the wine here in barrels. Together with an Italian designer, they shaped these glasses for a special tasting experience.
So a lady's supposed to drink from this?
Lady from that.
I'm gonna be greedy. I'm having pappardelle al cinghiale, okay? And then I'm going to have filetto di sogliola alla mugnaia.
Very well pronounced. Congratulations.
He doesn't realise my mum's Italian. He doesn't know. Shh, don't tell me. I want to bring my mum down. Mummy, tutto bene?
This is the best Italian restaurant I've ever been. It's the only restaurant I've ever had truffle sauce where you could actually see the truffles.
Il Palagio winery, which belongs to the British singer Sting and his wife Trudie.
It was a fantastic meal. We have just said it was probably the best Valentine's we've ever had.
Grazie, ciao, ciao, arrivederci. Come on, mummy. Just we walk by here. Look, Upper Mall, Mall, W. So that's another nice old sign from before 1917 with just the W rather than, I don't know, it doesn't have the numerical, because it should be W6, but that one just says W, because it's old. See, Weltier Road is W6, they love it. Well, Latymer Prep School coming up here. Did you go to prep school, Simon?
Yes.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Who did you fag for? And Latymer Upper School, I think, they've got their own boathouse here. They've got their own rowing club and everything. One very famous fellow who went to Latymer was Andy Holmes. He was the guy who won gold with Steve Redgrave a couple of times.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Sadly, he died actually very young because he caught Weil's disease, it's called. Apparently it's some sort of disease you pick up from being in the river. This excellent house here, and this one is also, look, they've also got a fire insurance plaque up there. Look, that looks like a Sun Life one. Look, they're all safe, aren't they?
They will be saved if anything goes awry
well,
concerning fire.
This is William Morris's house. William Morris, the famous designer, and you can actually go in 2 days of the week. Saturday they're open, I know. Because he was friends with that printer I was telling you over there, and he was very interested in printing and design and all sorts. So it's quite nice. You can see all these special little printing blocks and things that they've got inside there, and the old type of press. And that sign up there is telling you that in 1816, Sir Francis Ronalds invented the world's first electric telegraph in the back garden.
Stay city, smokily enchanted, cradle of our memories of our
This is a beautiful old pub. King Charles II used to meet Nell Gwyn in here sometimes. We want to get in there for a drink, do we, Simon? Maybe afterwards.
Maybe afterwards, yeah.
It's famously where James Thompson composed the words to Rule Britannia in 1740. When Britain's first at heaven's command, a rose out of the azure. All these pubs along here are just ancient and beautiful places to sit and have a drink overlooking the river. We're going to have to think about which one we want to do. In fact, it was along here somewhere that in Great Expectations, Pip comes to have his education, doesn't he? I don't know exactly where it was. It was somewhere around here. Furnival Gardens, this one, yeah. I suspect that this is the river underneath here. There used to be a bridge here. Simon, when we arrived, I met you at Stamford Brook Station. Yeah. And Stamford Brook is a little kind of stream, sort of river that used to come along here, and there was a bridge here, and sometimes you can still see the outlet over there. We'll go and have a look. If the tide's out, you can see the river still coming out. Used until the 1930s when it was filled in. So annoying. I was here the other day when the tide was out and you could see the outlet of the old river, the Stamford Brook, Hammersmith Creek, or whatever it's called, and it comes out somewhere over here, but now that the tide's come in, you can't really see it.
Every blitz, your resistance toughening from the Ritz to the Anchor.
Yet another very old pub, licensed since 1722. All these pubs along here are just really ancient, so you can have an excellent ancient pub crawl. Gustav Holst wrote the Hammersmith Suite in this pub, and it also features in that film Sliding Doors, where Gwyneth Paltrow meets John Hannah. As if you cared. The most important thing about it, though, is that in the closing credits to Minder, that's where they're sitting on the roof.
Dennis Waterman.
Dennis Waterman and George Cole. Poor Dennis Waterman, who died recently. And they're also on Hammersmith Bridge in that little sequence of photographs at the end, aren't they? They're standing up there. This is actually the lowest bridge across the Thames in the whole of London. It's built in 1887 by Sir Joseph Bazalgette, my favourite. I like Sir Joseph Bazalgette. He's the one who did the sewers. And he had the big kind of Lemmy-style moustache and beard. Actually, they've tried to blow it up a few times. I think the IRA targeted it a few times. One time, in the 1930s, there was a guy who spotted some package on the bridge. He thought, I say, that looks jolly suspicious. And he picked it up and he's chucked it into the river, saving everybody. This is Riverside Studios, which was like film studios back in the 1930s, but then in the 60s they converted it into the finest TV studios in the whole of Europe. And they made, in the 60s, they made Doctor Who here, Z-Cars was filmed here. But we're standing now on the Hammersmith Draw dock. In olden days, horses and carts would have come and unloaded goods from flat-bottomed barges, which would sit there. And so when the tide went out, the barge could just sit on the bottom, and then the horse could come in and sort of unload it. Right. And then it would come up this street. Yeah, look. So you see that funny old building over there? Look at that, it looks a bit like Harrods. You see it looks like Harrods, but it's because it's the Harrods furniture depository. If something was too big to get into the furniture store at Harrods, you'd have it stored there. And I heard, I don't know if this is true, but when Harrods first came about, you could ask for anything. You could order anything, and they would get it for you. So if you wanted an elephant, they would be able to source it and get it for you. Presumably they'd have to store it in there. Anyway, that's what I heard. And now look at it, if you swing around and just opposite, see, this isn't particularly picturesque, but this used to be the site of Brandenburg House. Do you remember in my video about Fulham, when I was talking about poor old Caroline of Brunswick, who was the wife of King George IV? Yeah, and he had all these other mistresses, and he didn't, when he first met Caroline of Brunswick, she was so unattractive that he had to call for strong brandy. So he was so shocked. Anyway, she was living here in Brandenburg House. He hated her so much he wouldn't even invite her to his coronation, which I think was in 1821. She only died a few months after that, and he hated her so much he had her house razed to the ground a few months later. But I'm sure she'll be delighted to know that her house is now being used for luxury flats, as is the Harrods depository. Luxury flats over there, not a bad.
Goes beside our starlit Thames, who lived and loved and died.
Now you and I probably know this as the Hammersmith Odeon. These days they call it the Eventim Apollo. So when you watch that programme, sometimes on TV, they've got Tonight at the Apollo, whatever it's called, that comedy show. I've been meaning to save coming here for the last ever Joolz guide, because I thought it would be cool to kill off Joolz guides in the same place that David Bowie killed off Ziggy Stardust. You know, when Ziggy Stardust on stage here, this is where it was. He famously said, not only is this the final show of this particular tour, but it's the final show we'll ever do. And then that was news to the rest of the band. The Spiders from Mars, Mick Ronson, Woody Woodmansey, they were all like, what's that? They're playing their instruments going, did I just get the sack live on stage? I felt a bit sorry for them. But anyway, this was actually built in 1932. It was originally built as a cinema. Well, I'm not going to list all the famous people who have performed here, but Louis Armstrong, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Buddy Holly even performed here. He had a fight one night, I think, backstage. Someone knocked his teeth out, so he did the rest of the gig with some chewing gum holding on the caps of his front teeth here. Just to put you at ease, I'm not killing off Joolz guides yet. Stay calm, I'm not retiring until I go on Strictly. Oh, there we go. Look, rather isolated on this traffic island, looking a bit lonesome, is the bottom bench, where I'm resting my bottom. This features in the opening credits to Bottom, the TV show with Rick Mayall and Ade Edmondson. They always hitting each other over the head and stuff. Poor old Rick Mayall, he died not that long ago. and I missed it out when I did my videos of London benches. So because it wasn't here for a while, they took it away, but then they campaigned to get it put back again.
Oh, right, okay.
So
it seems a bit odd, like why originally would there be a bench? I mean, look at where it is. It's right in the middle of a very busy...
Not the sort of place you'd particularly want to sit down for a relaxing
Eat your
break.
sandwiches. And,
Yeah. Anyway, let's go drink to Rick Bad.
Every blitz, your resistance toughening from the Ritz to the Anchor and
How
Crown.
small? It's that little bit in there. It's the smallest bar in the world.
Thank you. 4 foot 2 inches by 7 foot 10.
Excellent. Cheers, Simon.
Cheers, Julian.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like these videos. And if you want to know more about me, you can go onto my website, joolzguides.com, where you can leave a donation as well if you like. And you can follow me on Instagram and all that other fancy stuff. Cheers. See you next time.
Could override the pride of London town.